so we allow time for everyone who wants to. So as most of you know, each month we choose an organization to be our monthly recipient of offerings. And this month, the monthly recipient is Green Earth here in Carbondale. And I would invite Stephanie, and I'm sorry if I butcher your name because I didn't ask you when I introduced myself, Eichholz, to come forward and tell us a little bit more about Green Earth.
Hello, Unitarian Fellowship. As mentioned, my name is Stephanie Eichholz, and I go by she, her, and I'm delighted to be here today. I'm going to do two things real quick. I'm going to start a timer. And the reason is, usually when I talk, I speak for about 45 minutes, so I have a hard time truncating. So I got the timer started, and I'll try to rein it in, but I am going to go off notes. That'll help me stay more concise, too. I love the theme of the month, or I guess it's the month or the week, the embracing possibilities. I feel like that fits Green Earth like a glove. There is a blurb about Green Earth on the back of the handout today that explains exactly who we are, but I will just say real quick, we own and operate nature preserves in Carbondale and have been doing so since 1974. We are a nonprofit, so we do depend heavily on community support. And so I'm going to dig in from there. Why embracing possibilities works so well for us? Well, we started out as a kind of an out-of-the-box idea in the 1970s from a group of people that thought it'd be pretty cool to save just a little bit of nature inside the city as they're watching it really grow and develop. We've come a long way since then, and we've become something that the community really recognizes as a valuable resource. Well, the part of that, the benefits of natural areas, they've been well studied, and they're shown to improve some of our emotional and cognitive growth. We've also lowers stress levels, lowers blood pressure, and increasing that the feeling of well-being and peace. But we also provide ecological services to the neighborhoods in the community, like cleaner air, cleaner water. We even increase property value in neighborhoods where we exist. So hopefully that benefits some of you out there. And we are now up to 7 sites within the Carbondale area. And those are all open to the public for outdoor hiking and education. And that 7th site is the Harris Prairie, which hopefully rings some bells here. The family of Stan Harris was wonderful about facilitating that. And it was a beautiful hand-tended prairie by Stan himself, and Charles Ruffner, I believe, helped. And also the Rothrocks were really involved in making sure that prairie is really well diversified with native species, and it's really beautiful in the summer. So I invite everybody to come check that one out specifically. Let's see. We do spend a lot of time and resources on not just preserving green space, though. It's very much a managed property. We work hard for trying to do a lot of restorative work on the land in removing invasive species and planting native species and trying to really restore the ecology of the area. But also working toward public access. We want to make these sites available to everybody, even those with limited mobility. So we've done a lot of work on upgrading 2 of our sites to date to ADA-friendly standards. It's a little bit different than ADA compliant. It's not paved. We don't have handrails, but it is smooth, hard-packed surfaces with all ramped elevation changes, and really trying to help people that maybe not even in a wheelchair, but people with just limited mobility because they have trouble stepping high enough to clear obstacles. So it's worked out really well. And some of the beneficiaries of that I didn't even think of are like moms with strollers. And it's become, the 2 sites are Chautauqua Bottoms and the Piles Fork Preserve. So both are in great shape if you want to get out for a beautiful spring hike. Let's see. So actually circling back to the possibilities, right now, as I mentioned, we started as 1 small preserve in the early 70s. We've grown to the 7. We are currently working on pulling together an application to the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, their recreational trails program. This is the same grant we obtained in 2015 that allowed us to do those first rounds of ADA-friendly upgrades to our Chautauqua Bottom site. This time, we would like to use that same funding, if we're awarded, to build a bridge on the north end of the site, which would complete a loop. So if somebody could start out on Chautauqua Bottoms and walk all the way up to Sunset and all the way back down without having to retrace their steps, something we've wanted to do since we acquired that land back in 2004. We are currently asking for a different type of support from the community. Our application will score higher if we have user survey data that we can include. So if you've been to the trailheads recently, and I know Miriam and Dawn over there, I'm sure there's others, I don't know. I'm at that age in my life where I have to take the glasses on and off so much, so I'm not even sure who all is out there right now. But if you've been out there recently, you will have seen most likely some very lovely volunteers asking if you could help us by participating in that user survey. We do collect those in person, but we also have the ability to do QR code, and there's also a link on our homepage. So if you could pretty please visit that. Either I can, if it's okay, I can leave this QR code here. Okay, somewhere in back we'll find a spot. But also, if anybody just Googles Green Earth and Carbondale, it will take you to our website. And then you could just click the button and submit that survey online. Trying to make it as painless as possible. It's only a 5-minute survey, but it will help us a lot. So that's something that we spent a lot of time and energy on right now, building that survey and pulling the application together. But we do have other things going on. We are going to revisit, bring back Nature on Tap, which was, I don't know if anybody had been to the original Nature on Tap, but it was a really fun event where during our 50th anniversary, we had a different event every month trying to target a different demographic, to bring people to our preserves who maybe wouldn't come otherwise. So we did a craft brew beer crawl at our Oakland Preserve, and that was in partnership with Scratch Brewery. So they came and set up 8 tasting stations along the trail, and people visited, had a good time. We had live music. It was really well received. So we're bringing it back. So please mark your calendar for May 2nd, if anyone's interested in that. And we will start publicizing that pretty shortly. Also, our biggest fundraiser of the year, that's not until the fall, but it's the Pumpkin Glow. If any of you have not been to the Pumpkin Glow, I highly recommend it. It's just a wonderful event. It's very appropriate for little kids all the way up to great grandmothers. Everybody in between enjoys it immensely. Last year, we had pretty close to 1,000 jack-o'-lanterns out on the trail for a nighttime hike. And it's breathtaking when you're out in the middle of the woods. Let's see, another project that's going to happen at Chautauqua Bottoms is we did have some leftover grant funding from upgrading our Piles Fork Preserve. I know that never happens, right? We came in under budget, that we asked the grantor if we could use that remaining funds to upgrade our Chautauqua Bottoms interpretive signage to the same signs that we installed recently at Piles Fork Preserve during that large grand reopening project. So we'll be working on getting those. They're beautiful, colorful, really informational. And since I mentioned Piles Fork Preserve, this past June, we had a big grand reopening. That was a site that was also just like Chautauqua Bottoms. Much of it was a hardwood bottomland, so it was really difficult to get through after any kind of rain event. It was very muddy, places that would overtop your boots with no problem. So that is a really beautiful ADA-friendly trail now, nice and hard-packed. If you haven't been there since probably about May, last year, so almost a year, I would recommend going back out there again. It's completely different. So that is really what's going on currently. I just do want to conclude. Ooh, I'm getting close to 10 minutes. Glad I had my timer. I'd like to conclude with just a heartfelt thank you to the fellowship for supporting Green Earth, not only financially through the social action Sundays, but also many of you donate financially individually. A lot of you come to our work days. Benita is somebody that I've missed recently, and now I know why. I'll have to reach out to her. But many of you out there, like Candy, provides some music for the Pumpkin Glow. And again, if I put my glasses on, I can't read my paper, but I'm sure there's many of you out there who've been personally involved and not only pitching into work days, but the monies that's donated helps us purchase the supplies for the volunteer work days. materials we need to keep our trails in good shape so more people can come and enjoy nature. That is kind of the whole point, getting people out in nature to connect. Once there's an emotional connection, especially if we can get the children out while they're young, then they grow up to the people that want to protect nature. So I think that's something that we all agree is for everybody's benefit. So thank you again. I will be around if anybody has any questions after.
Thank you, Stephanie. In our fellowship, we share so many things: time, efforts, talents, spirit, and money. We share with this fellowship for the needs of the fellowship, but we also share with our greater community beyond these walls. You may contribute to the fellowship or to our social action offering recipient for March, Green Earth, which we just heard about from Stephanie. And there's, as she said, there's more information about them in your order of service. Checks should be made payable to CUF, and you can also donate online via PayPal. The link for that is in the chat and on your order of service. And beyond that, I don't know how you would do that. But use the check memo area on your check or the note area in PayPal if you want to designate a donation to Green Earth. And also remember that your spare change makes a difference. All the coins collected during the offering are sent to the UUA Annual Program Fund, which provides important resources to UU congregations, including CUF. Freely have we received of gifts that minister to our needs of body and spirit. Glad we bring to our fellowship and its wide concerns a portion of this bounty. Your contributions in any form are gratefully accepted.
Okay. Thanks, Gilletta, for turning my mic on. Here's one of our Unitarian, one of our very own songs, Blue Boat Home, which dovetails nicely with Green Earth, doesn't it? Though below me I feel no motion, standing on the mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, 'cause I've been sailing all my life now. Never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge and wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here, my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of heaven in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song, 'cause I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor nor port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
And now it's my pleasure to invite Father Brown to come to the microphone and share his message. Venturing into the unknown, I believe.
Well, if you insist.
You must.
I got dressed up for it. I guess I might as well. It's been a long time since I've been in this room, but I have always felt blessed. And I was sharing earlier that the last time I was in church, I fainted behind the altar. That was just 2 weeks ago. So how you doing? Oh, I'm standing up. That's all I can tell you. But that's a lot. And it was at a high school in Belleville, Althoff High School. And some people whose pronouns are he and hit and on, don't always listen to their primary care providers or anybody else. I'm not waving my hand, but he had told me, you really ought to think about the issues of dehydration. I thought about them. And when they got me up off the floor behind the altar right before communion up at Althoff, I thought even more seriously about them. And now I've been thinking about them even more. So that's my joy, to say that somebody's going to tell us who we are and what we need to be. And I also said to a number of people before the service started that I'm going to sound like I'm stealing things from everybody, because my theme today has been spoken about 6 times already, which is the whole point of today. We gather and make this space powerful and grace-filled. What does grace mean? It is the power in us to make things happen. I spent a lot of time on the phone last night with my younger niece, who told me she's in therapy. And I was so grateful to hear that. She was severely abused as a child, physically and mentally. And she's still abused mentally by one of her parents, or by both of her parents. All of us who are on her mother's side of the family tried everything we could to intervene and to do things. And she told me one of the happiest days of her life was when she was 12 years old, and for the first time she was able to sleep peacefully was when I forced her mother to take her from Mississippi to New Jersey. And she's well, I should, no, I don't want should haves. You do not know how much you are bringing to this world and to our family. You have never given up. You have defined yourself according to yourself so that you can love your children in a way that they will be blessed by, in a way you never felt at home. You can give to others without asking for return. And you can give to other people what you never got. Talk about faith, the journey into the unknown. It really is quite simple. You all have said it, and it was read here from your mission statement. We are a congregation of open minds and hearts, all ages, all colors, all genders, all abilities, all kinds of wealth, all kinds of love. There is a passage that all of us have heard, whether or not we carry the Bible with us or even want to pick it up. The stone that was rejected by the builders has become the cornerstone. And if there's anything that I know from my study of American history, it's the Unitarian Fellowship has been proclaiming, preaching, and acting out that statement from its inception. The stone that was rejected by the builders has become the cornerstone. And where are we, my sisters and brothers? In this world right now, We come to the fellowship. We come to the gathering. We come to church in order to relight the candle, to repurpose the flame within. We come to the oasis of our faith. And what is the faith? Again, one of the great passages, classical statements. Faith is the realization of what is hoped for and evidence of things not seen. I think of my niece, I think of me, and she told me, she said, and you know, the person who helped me out the most when we moved back to the East St. Louis was Frederick, my brother, 11 years older than me. He helped her see her possibilities more than anybody else. Because once a month he would come down to visit my mother, and she was there with my mother. And he saw her and he listened to her. All of us knew what she was going through, what she had gone through. Her older female cousin did everything she could to stop her mother, my sister, from moving away from that family. We couldn't do it. I intervened. That one great night when she was able to sleep in New Jersey, I had gone to Jackson, Mississippi, and spoke the word of power and fire. And her mother packed up the car and drove them both to freedom, safety, and hope. Here's the story, and this is always the story. Your community, your history, your inheritance has been to hear those who were told you have no voice, no credibility. You cannot live with the authority of your birth. I know that. And that's what this mission statement is telling us. That's what the reminder is. That's what's bringing up Green Earth here. And look at what we have to do now. We are living in a land where people are using every ounce of power and fear and threat to reject the cornerstones of our culture, to turn faith communities into advanced groups of hate, division, and death. We know better because we have seen better. We know that the prophets among us are not speaking some informed word. The prophets are speaking the truth. And sometimes they use words. The steady, standing still in the face of the storm is prophetic wisdom and power and grace. Standing still in the storm. But, and this is the other theme that you all have been bringing up over and over and over this morning, your voice, the song. Now, I come from a tradition and a culture, and I teach it every semester that I have been teaching with that initials behind my name. So since 1984, I have been teaching it no matter what school I go to, no matter what campus where I walk. The most oppressed, violated human beings who built the wealth of this country were told, you are dumb, lazy, and not even fully human. And yet they were required to labor for the wealth of others across this planet. And they're still being abused and oppressed that way on the mother continent. Slavery has never ended. In fact, it is protected by our Constitution. The profit off the human body We don't need to keep hearing over and over and over about the Epstein files. I stand here dressed as someone who has to carry the burden of sexual depravity in the Catholic Church. I spoke about it and wrote about it many, many years before they proclaimed it in journalism about the Georgetown University 272. And while I appreciate the 1619 project, I have to keep challenging it because it's not the truth. Slavery did not begin on this land in 1619. The Spanish brought it with them. The French brought it with them. Now the British perfected it. Today, in the Equal Justice Initiative calendar of the history of racial oppression, they talk about the slaughter of over 200 Native Americans in Massachusetts in 1782. The militia, the military went and killed them because somebody had gotten killed by somebody who was Native, and they decided to go into a community of the Native people, even though they had nothing to do with that murder, and kill them. Almost 200 of them. Well, that's the first police force we've ever had in this country, was to make sure that free citizens were protected from rebellion and uprisings. You have our constitutional protection. By the time the Constitution was ratified, there were over 50 slave rebellions and uprisings in this country. We don't get taught that. But the people who helped to create this gathering, this fellowship, they knew it. What is faith? For me, and that's all I can tell you, my faith was believing in my elders. I am so blessed to know that they looked at me and said, "You can do this." What do you mean? "You can do it, baby. Don't worry about that. Keep on doing that. We're going to support you." But you know what the real act of faith was? I watched them every day. My grandmother had a kitchen window. There was a social service agency. My mother, story, I was about maybe 9 years old or so, maybe 10. And my father said, we lived in East St. Louis, 13th and Bond Avenue, across from the old Lincoln High School. My father said, "Joseph, where's your mother?" I said, "I don't know. Let me look." I said, "She's out in the backyard talking to that wino at the fence." I can't say here what he said, but you figure it out. He wasn't happy about that. Yeah, but she saw them and they saw her. Years later, moving out of state back to the East St. Louis, living in a different neighborhood, my mother was legendary. If she saw you, she talked to you, to the point where the winos in the neighborhood were security force. I came back from Omaha, Nebraska one day, got a rental car, came over from Lambert Airport, parked the car there. "Miss Brown, you okay?" "Well, yeah, Henry, why?" "Well, we saw a car out here with a different license plate and we hoped you were all right." Well, we ain't got to worry about nobody messing with her. And her mother-in-law, my father's mother, was the very same way. What was faith? I saw them unafraid of whoever the stranger was. But I also know what those two women went through and what they endured and what they prevailed against. Oh, it took a while. It took a while for them to tell me the stories, or somebody else had to tell me the story about them. But I knew what the flame was from childhood, from infancy. And I knew what love was. And they showed me both. What is faith? Somebody looks at us and says, I see something in you that is inspiring to me, that is nourishing to my dreams. Somebody over there plays the guitar, said before the service started that he wants to listen to the young people to learn things about what he must do with his life. And I thought, that's faith. If I ask a young person, what do you think? What is important to you? Oh, well, I didn't know that that's how I was responding when they asked me. Sitting around the table at night, everybody had to contribute to the conversation from the time you're 6 years old in my family. Now, I didn't use some of the language that they used, but I knew what it meant. But anyway, I'm not going to talk about that right now. So I'm just going to say something else. I'm going to read a couple passages. I brought a whole lot of voices with me today. A whole lot of voices. 1857, somebody who was really, really bonded with the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Those who profess to favor freedom and yet deprecate agitation are those who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the awful roar of its many waters. This struggle may be a moral one, or it may be a physical one, and it may be both moral and physical, but it must be a struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. You find out just what any people will quietly submit to, and you have found out the exact measure of injustice and wrong which will be imposed upon them. And these will continue till they are resisted with either words or blows or with both. 1857. The limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those whom they oppress. Now, I write this on the board because I'm old-fashioned and I still got chalk. Resistance, persistence, transcendence. That's the story of Black culture, but that's the story of gender resistance. That's the story of every oppressed, alienated, and separated group of people or individuals. I will resist it. I will not give up. And someday, the freedom I am calling in myself as mine will be manifest to the world. That's what this community has done for this community. That's what it has always done and what it must always do. You are truly telling us all what the cornerstone is. That was 1857. I got a couple more quotes. Dictators and tyrants routinely begin their reigns and sustain their power with the deliberate and calculated destruction of art. The censorship and book burning of unpoliced prose, the harassment and detention of painters, journalists, poets, playwrights, novelists, essayists. This is the first step of a despot whose instinctive acts of malevolence are not simply mindless or evil, they are also perceptive. Such despots know very well that their strategy of repression will allow the real tools of oppressive behavior and power to flourish. Their plan is simple. Select a useful enemy, the other, to convert rage into conflict, even war. limit or erase the imagination that art provides, as well as the critical thinking of scholars and journalists. Distract with toys, dreams of loot, and themes of superior religion or defiant national pride that enshrine past hurts and humiliations. That was not written yesterday. That was written by Toni Morrison in the year 2015. Her words are describing the nightly news on March 8th, 2026. Every word in that. But the title of her essay was No Place for Self-Pity, No Room for Fear. She meant that, and she was speaking it so deeply. Art, journalism, unpoliced truth. We are under attack, but that's not new. We have never been without attack. Never. And yet, I come from a culture, and so do all of us in this room, who sang, "Ain't no grave can hold my body down." That same culture said, "Wade in the water." Who was singing that? Somebody on the other side of danger and threat and life-challenging crises. Come on now. You can do this. That's what faith is. I got over, and I'm telling you, you can get over. That's our faith. What is unknown? How much strength and hope and courage I have. That's the only thing I don't know. So the faith in me is, well, if you think I can do it, then maybe I can. My AME, African Methodist Episcopal grandmother, was the first one to put me up here in front of a whole group of people in a church. I was 5 years old. Easter Sunday, I had to memorize a poem. Well, that's what I was supposed to do. But Laura Brown, she practiced and practiced and practiced. She did not live long enough to know how well I was respected as an artist in theater, but she started me at the age of 5. The other grandmother, the one with the back window that gave out slices of pie and cake and advice, she's the one who got me my Easter suit. Putting that suit on, and I'm looking good for 5 years old. And I got up in front of that entire, and I forgot what I was supposed to say. So she's sitting right down there, and she said, I said, "Would you please be quiet till I button up my suit?" And the whole church laughed. Well, guess what? I'm still doing it, and y'all still got the same reaction. You can blame her for it, not me. But she had faith in me. I went to see her in the nursing home. She had a stroke when she was 92 years old and lived another 12 years. I went to see her one day, and she said, "Joseph, are you ashamed of who you are?" "What do you mean, Mom?" "You don't wear your shirt." She meant this, the Roman collar. My African Methodist Episcopal grandmother wanted me to walk into the world telling people who I was and what I had claimed, because that made her proud. The other grandmother, the one with a second grade education, who had been raped at the age of 16 by a teenage white boy in Tennessee, when I went to graduate school at Yale, every month she sent me a handwritten letter with encouragement and $10, $15, $20 in it to help out. That's what faith is. That is what faith is. But you can't have it unless people can listen to you. I might not have been the most articulate child in the world, but I wasn't no slouch now. Because I started writing poetry when I was 12 years old. And that poetry helped me do my self-artistic expression of therapeutic help. When I went into the seminary, which was as racist as anything you could ever imagine, I wrote to myself about what I was going on, and looking and hearing the words that I wrote, that was the art that gave me persistence and transcendence, because I could do exactly what Frederick Douglass, the one who was speaking in 1857, did. I could sit on the bank and see the clouds and the ships, and I can feel a freedom in me that this world ain't never gonna let me experience. But as long as I keep that light in me and let you see it, I am not a victim. And here is another word. They who passively accept evil are as much involved in it as they who help to perpetrate it. They who accept evil without protesting against it are really cooperating with it. I have said this so often. I run into somebody in the grocery store, someone else say, "How you doing?" "Oh, I can't complain. It wouldn't do no good." People stop saying that to me because they know I will not. Oh yeah, no, don't you ever tell me that. It won't do any good. Look at the heroes who were martyrs to freedom coming from your religious community. Nobody asked them anything about which God do you believe in and which scriptures or which text do you follow. No, they were standing there facing guns and iron rods and dogs and hoses. Oh yeah, it makes a difference. It makes a huge difference. Toni Morrison says this: "This is precisely the time when artists go to work. There is no time for despair, no place for self-pity, no need for silence, no room for fear. We speak, we write, we do language. That is how civilizations heal. I know the world is bruised and bleeding, and though it is important not to ignore its pain, it is also critical to refuse to succumb to its malevolence. Like failure, chaos contains information that can lead to knowledge, even wisdom, like art. To stand still in the midst of the hurricane, to not run from the assault that is coming towards us, to say, like another great religious figure, here I stand, I can do no other. I will stand." But here's the point. The two young ones there and all the other young ones that we know who they are. But we have got to be able to look at those people who nobody else sees and say, "Tell me about yourself. What you interested in doing? Are you sure that's enough? Looks to me like you got an awful lot going on for you. Isn't that what this fellowship is doing to this entire region and across this country? I think you can do more. I think you have faith in me. Oh my, then I better wake up and have some faith in myself." When I went into that seminary setting in the Society of Jesus, the Jesuits up in Minnesota, I was the only Black person in the entire county. And the priest who was in charge of our program, he knew how much neurosis I was experiencing for having had to desegregate my high school and grade school by myself along with my little sister. And 3 of my 4 years in high school, I was the only Black person there. So I walked into that building with all these other people wanting to be priests, and I knew that I was not going to stand up and talk in public See how well that turned out. So I would never raise my hand in class about anything. So he would just look at me and say, Joseph, what do you think? They're only maybe 3 or 4 months. And he said, can you come to my office? I need your help. We're going to put on a play for Christmas. And I want you to help me by figuring out who ought to play which part. Okay. I'd done that kind of stuff in high school. So I said, okay, so-and-so could, and why's my name on this list? Because you're going to be in the play. No, I'm not. I can't do that. I didn't ask you. Oh. Well, through an awful lot of pain, suffering, and even a nervous breakdown, those 4 years, I never stopped using the theater as a way to get myself back together. And look at what's going on in our schools today. No painting, no drama, no music, no writing, no memorizing poetry. But they're doing what they can. But it's all being told to them in all sorts of ways that you don't need to do this. Just accept this, just accept it, just accept. Stop. Be God. Be God. What does he mean by that? In the beginning, there was nothing. And God spoke a word, and there was everything. The word spoken with the authority of your experience, your faith, and your dreams, and something can change. Now, I'm going to do one more quote, and then I'm going to do a poem, and then I'm going to sit down because I know what I'm doing. And after all this time, you do too. Okay, he's going to find the quote. Yes, he is. No, really, he's going to find the quote. One voice can change a room. And if one voice can change a room, then it can change a city. And if it can change a city, it can change a state. And if it can change a state, it can change a nation. And if it can change a nation, it can change the world. Your voice can change the world. That's a pretty powerful quotation. And I think we've all known people who have been able to do that kind of thing. And that was from Barack Obama. And here is the poem of blessing. Before the day of being born, we are chosen to lie at the crossroads, each path unmarked, on a shore where the horizon cannot be seen. We are told to wade, to walk, and for years, in dreams only, to fly. But the call is steady, beating the rhythm, as familiar as breath, and on and on and on the hope that heats our heart. We continue, showing those who stand uncertain at the shore, on the road, on the hill, that there is always yes to be said, to be sung.
Yeah. Exceptions can be made. And I have to say, amen. Now, for our postlude, at some point, Glenn wants us to sing the fourth and fifth verses with him. Is that still?
I'm gonna explain that to you.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah, I always talk,
Glenn, this is one of those times we need you to talk.
My mom always said Glenn was vaccinated with a microphone. But thank you. One voice. This song is one voice, and this song can't be done alone. And I've got Elena and Jenna graciously going to help me out with it because that's what this song's about. So when we're going to do the first three verses. There's three of us. It starts out with one voice, then two, then three, but then y'all are going to be on the fourth verse, all of us singing, and the fifth verse. But between the fourth and fifth, there is a bridge. If you don't know what that is, you're going to find out, but we're going to do it for you. You guys are ready, aren't you? This is the sound of one voice, one spirit, one voice, the sound of one who makes a choice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of voices too. The sound of me singing with you, helping each other to make it through. This is the sound of voices too. This is the sound of voices too. This is the sound of voices three, singing together in harmony, surrendering to the mystery. This is the sound of voices three. This is the sound of voices three. Here's y'all. This is the sound of all of us, singing together in the will to trust. Leave the rest behind, it'll turn to dust. This is the sound of all of us. This is the sound of all of us. Oh, this is the sound of one voice, one people, one voice, a song for every one of us. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice. Oh yeah. You can applaud for yourselves, right? That'll be okay. Thank you. You got a voice too, Father.
It's our time of thanks and applauding anyway, so that just seemed perfect. So I do want to thank everyone who made this service possible, those of you here and those of you on Zoom. And a special thanks to Father Joseph Brown for his message. I no longer quite fear the unknown as much as before. So thank you. And to Stephanie Eikos, the Green Earth. This is a day that makes you want to go for a walk, and now I know where to go. And of course, Jess Job for her testimony. And Joyce, Rhonda, and the RE for their presentation of Time for All Ages. And yes, Glenn, Jen, and of course, Elena for their music. And Elena for her accompaniment. She always goes above and beyond. And Gilletta and Corbin as the AV hosts. Not only very good technically, but exceedingly patient with those of us up here. Although I may hear about that later. And thanks to me for stumbling through this. So now I would ask you to please rise as you're willing or able. Join hands or hold your hands palm out for our benediction, which is entitled Already Unfolding by Reverend Tandy Rogers. May possibility take root where certainty once stood. May curiosity lead the way. May you loosen your grip, open your hands, and find that something unexpected is already unfolding. Blessed be, go in peace with love for justice.
Amen.
Amen. And join us at the potluck.